The Tale of Peter the Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were 4 rabbits, and their names were Flipsy and Mopsy, Cottontail and Peter. They lived with their mother in the sand bank, underneath the root of a very big pear tree. "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit on the morning, "you may go into the fields and down the lane, but don't go into Mr. Crugger's garden. Your father had an accident there, and he was put in a pea by Mr. McGruggers. Now, run along, and don't get into the mushroom. I'm going out." Then old Mrs. Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella to the baker's. She put a leaf of brown bread and 5 carrot beans. Flipsy and Mopsy and Cottontail were very good little bunnies. They went down to the lane to gather black pears. But Peter, who was a very naughty, ran straight away to Mr. McGruggers' garden and squeezed under the gate. First he ate some French beans, and then he ate some radish, and then, feeling rather sick, he went to look for some parsley. But round the end of the chamber frame, whom should he meet? But he met Mr. McGruggers. Mr. McGrugger was on his hands and knees, planning out some cabbage, but he jumped up and ran after Peter, waving a rag and calling out, "Stop thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He lost one of his shoes among the cabbage, and the other shoe among the potatoes. After losing them, he ran out 4-legged and went faster, and that I think he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net and got caught by the large bottom of his jacket. It was blue jacket with the brass bottoms. It was quite new. Peter gave himself up for the lost, and he shed big tears, but his sobs were overheaded with some friendly sparrows, who floated to him in great excitement and encouraged him to exist himself out. Mr. McGruggers came up with some thief, which he intended to bob up on the top of Peter, but Peter buggered out of just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped into the can. It would have been a beautiful thing if he hid in it, if it had not had so much water in it. Mr. McGruggers was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath the flower pot. He began to run them over carefully, looking under each. Presently Peter sneezed. "Hachoo!" Mr. McGruggers was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out of the window, upsetting 3 planets. The window was too small for Mr. McGruggers, and he was too tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not at least idea which way he must go. Also, he was very dumb with sitting in that can. After a time he began to wonder about going lipty-lipty, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in the wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to squeeze underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone drop step, carrying beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her, the way to the gate, but she had such a large bean in her mouth that she couldn't answer him. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he had become more and more puzzled. Presently he came to a pond where Mr. Kruger filled his water can. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She was very, very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it is best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cats from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went out back towards the tool shed, but suddenly, quite close to him, he heard the noise of who scratch, 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 scratch. Presently, as nothing happened, he came out climbing upon the wheelbarrow and peeped over. The first thing he saw was Mr. Kruger hoeing the onions. His back was turned towards Peter, and behind him was the gate. Peter got down quite off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could along a straight walk behind some black cart pins. Mr. Kruger caught a sight of him at the corner, but Peter didn't care. He slipped under the gate. He was safe at last in the wood outside of the garden. Mr. Kruger hung out the little jacket and the shoes from the cruel to frighten the blackbirds. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he flopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eyes. His mother was busy with cooking. She wondered what had happened to his clothes. It was the second time that he lost the jacket and the pair of shoes. I am sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to the bed and made him some tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter. One tablespoonful